Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. This is our
bracket,
first bracket rundown show of the season. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Up here, top row, we've got my sides, Joey Fortson and Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org. Right below me, John Titel. To his sides, David Griggs, who is exploding. And Zach back with us again with a little bit of UConn news. I think we go to you first, Zach, because you got to talk to us about something, a little challenges going on in UConn, right?
So, yeah, they were down 18 to Marquette last week, and one of the fun people on Twitter jokingly said, he said if they come back, I'll eat a banana covered in Frank's Red Hot or whatever. They did. He did. And in a week, they've raised $21,000. So down the hatch with the Cholula hot sauce. Dan Hurley did it tonight and found a way to look even more awkward than I thought he could doing it.
Here we go.
All right.
Oh,
That'll get you up in the morning.
Are you alive still?
Yeah.
And that's all the time we have, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, there we go. The charity is the Pay Kevin Ollie's Salary charity.
I know, really. It's the Husky Ticket Project, but
okay.
And they buy tickets and give them to inner city kids, and they've done great work, and like the people they've gotten involved in it in terms of like the school president did it. More importantly, Hurley did it.
More importantly, you did it now.
Yes.
Obviously, and we were going to get the puppet to do it, but it's hard to the logistics.
I don't have any taste buds.
The lack of hands.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, this is our bracket rundown show, and Zach is dying over here.
The bracket rundown.
That's our bracket rundown show. What we're going to do here, attempt to do at least, is put together what's called a seed list. That is,
we will fail.
Basically doing the first two steps that the real NCAA Tournament Selection Committee is going to do is both select teams and put them into a seed list. Once we are done, we're going to bracket all the teams up off the air. And if you look below us, you'll have just cheated, but you'll see the results of what we're going to do here. It's going to be down there.
Down there?
Yeah, so we kind of use the NCAA first they select the teams and then they do a lot of voting as they do that, and then they seed the teams, and that's a lot of voting. It takes them about 4 days. We're hoping to do this in about 45 minutes. We're just more productive like that. We won't be voting quite as much as they do. We will be debating and discussing, though.
All right. Can we have the ice cream bar brought in?
Zach needs a 5-minute break. I push him down to the bottom of the list. But this is the board we're going to be using for tonight. What you see here is I've got 68 lines for representing all 68 teams. I'm sorry. And what I'm going to do is go to each of you in turn, asking you to give me 4 teams. We'll fill in a seed line at a time. For example, the 1 seeds, then the 2s, then the 3s. Then we'll have some debate over who belongs in. If there's no consensus, then I will serve as the final arbiter and make the decision. We're going to do that all the way until the at-large bids are gone. There's a little counter down here. There are 37 at-large bids this season because of the fact that the Ivy League is not playing. So once that becomes 0, we'll be done. I will go ahead and fill in all the remaining auto bids, which we'll put up on the screen at the end of the show. You can see there'll be some metrics that will be popping up here as well. We'll be able to see teams' net ratings, KenPom ratings, strength of schedule, and even Jovi, your JNG ratings will.
Chad, I just have a couple of quick questions. Yeah. You're going to hear terms that most people watching probably know, but maybe not everyone. What is a protected seed? What is inside the bubble? And what is a first ballot team? Could you just define those really quickly?
Sure. When we talk about protected seeds, what we're talking about is teams that are on the top 4 seed lines, basically. The term protected means they're not supposed to be at a home court disadvantage in the first round, which doesn't matter because everybody's playing in Indianapolis this year.
Right. What it really means is that you're not playing somebody that's inside the bubble. What does inside the bubble mean, Chad?
Inside the bubble means that you are clearly in the field no matter what. On the bubble means you may or may not be in the field, and outside the bubble means that you just suck.
Yeah. Or that you need to win the automatic bid to get it.
You got to win the automatic bid.
It's very semantic, but I am wondering: is Purdue allowed to play at Mackey Arena?
I don't know
that answer.
They should not be. I would be shocked
if they want to reduce travel, they should be.
No, they should be. They should have to go to Bloomington, which is not that far. To be honest,
I think they should.
Or Indy's not that far either.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and start filling in some teams here, though. And Rocco, let me start with you. I'm going to give you the honor of giving us the 4 number 1 seeds in order here, 1 through 4. Who are the top 4 teams in the nation?
Well, Chad, I'm honored to be called on first, so thank you. I just
I'm
want
insulted that I was not called on first.
You're not getting called out on all tonight, David. So,
and I guess before I reveal the teams, I should preface everything tonight by saying this is going to be one of the more interesting shows we've ever done, because I think you could argue to death on a lot of these placements, but the 1 seed's maybe not one of them, because I think we have a clear top 3 at this point. You've got Gonzaga blowing everybody's doors off, most people's number 1, Baylor number 2, and then Michigan at 3. You know, the big blowout win over Wisconsin, solidifying them to me as a respectable third number 1. Certainly haven't blown everybody out. You know, they did go to overtime against Oakland, but since then it's been an amazing showing from the Wolverines. And the 4th number 1, we're going to go ahead and give it to Villanova.
Ooh.
Villanova, they've played a game last year sometime, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time, but they do have the win at Texas, and besides the Virginia Tech overtime loss, they've been flawless.
Well, let me ask a couple people about this. And Titel, let me start with you here. Do you agree with him on these 4 teams, especially this Villanova team, who is just falling behind in the number of games they're playing, unfortunately?
You got a long show and a big board. No veto from me.
Oh, okay. David, you had thoughts on it?
Well, I like Texas a lot, and I know they're coming off of a loss to Texas Tech. But when you pull up their profile, which we can we do that and just put them next to Villanova? I know Villanova beat them, so it isn't outrageous to have in Austin. It isn't outrageous to have them higher. But when you look at Texas, and it's coming around in a second, I mean, that is just at Kansas, at West Virginia. I just can't get over 2 road wins against protected seeds. I just think that's phenomenally good.
Well, Zach, what do you think about this argument here that maybe Texas, even though Villanova beat them, Texas is just such a quantity of wins, they belong above them?
Yeah, I hotter than I thought it was going to. I also have a very weak palate. No, I actually had Texas as my 4th number 1 seed. It's tough with Villanova. It's been so long since they played, and they did beat Texas, and they're an excellent team. I think there's no question they're the best team.
They're in my field.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have a Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, Texas. This is my first. I did my first one of the year this afternoon, so I'm probably in a real weird place. I've also been drinking hot sauce in public, so I mean, I really am impressed by Tennessee. I am impressed by Tennessee. They're next on my seed list. I'm really impressed by Texas. It's hard. It's probably unfair to value Texas over Villanova because, one, obviously they won in Austin. But also, it's very hard for me to get a read on these teams that we haven't seen in so long. And it's like, I mean, I'm not going to be punitive and say it's their fault because it's not. It's a pandemic. But I'm naturally leaning towards the teams I've seen be dominant in the current year in which we exist, which has lasted about 18 months.
I'll tell you what, this is the one I do want to keep things moving here. Joe, regularly you make the final call here. Villanova or Texas?
Villanova with Texas at number 5.
All right.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I like it just because of the head
Winning everything, especially with the lack of data points. It's not Villanova's fault. They haven't had the opportunity in the Big East to get wins, and they did win Marquette. So that's
And Texas lost last night to a team that was worse than Virginia Tech. So
right, that's very fair.
Yeah. Titel, let me bring you up here to do the 2 line. We do see that we've got Texas in there already, so they're going to say they're 5. But you want to give me 6, 7, and 8?
I do. I think there's several teams in play. I don't think it's as clear cut as the top 4 that Rocco just gave us, but I think we got to get Iowa in there. Garza is playing like a National Player of the Year, and the team around him is scoring like it. I think we got to get Tennessee, like Zach said. Obviously, they've had some COVID hurdles, but have been mostly solid. And then I think for the last spot, as I said, several, but I think Wisconsin is not there. I don't think Creighton has done enough yet, so I think I'm leaning Kansas.
Kansas, not Wisconsin or Creighton. Rocco, what do you think of his picks here?
So he goes Iowa, Tennessee, Kansas. I actually have Houston above Kansas. Again, it's a tough argument now with Caleb Mills leaving the program, and that's something the committee would discuss. But I think Houston's win over Texas Tech earlier this year starts to look even better after Texas Tech's win last night. And besides Houston's, tough loss at the buzzer to Tulsa, they've been flat out dominant. So Kansas, I've seen lose a number of times now. I just slightly still give Houston the edge.
David, I'll let you throw your thoughts in here. Houston or Kansas here. When you look at these profiles, there's some pretty nice wins at the top for Kansas, but there's more losses.
There's more losses, but they're to teams that are either on the one line or should be on the one line. Had you made the right call there, Chad? So, how do you really fall? I just don't think that Gonzaga and Texas really are setbacks at all. So we're really only looking at one loss here. And I think that that one isn't as bad as the one to Tulsa. I like both of them. I just think Kansas is a little better. And the win at Texas Tech, while they did both beat Texas Tech, Creighton, West Virginia, those are pretty good wins too. It's close though. I like this Houston team a lot, just not as much as Kansas.
Joby, I think I'm kind of like Kansas better than Houston as well. Are you with me or are you with Rocco here?
No, I just like, because of the reason, because of what Rocco pointed out. Yes, loss to Frank Haith, maybe that's enough to punish them. But the fact of the matter is they're dominating when they're going. Texas Kansas does have 4 losses or does have multiple losses right now. And
one's to Gonzaga. Are we really going to count that as a loss?
But yes.
Right, but that right now Houston is dominating in a weaker league. I like Houston longer term, but we do have to see how the Mills situation plays out. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm willing to give a team like Houston the benefit of the doubt because there are going to be opportunities and chances down the road. If all of a sudden they're playing a South Florida or a East Carolina or some middling to below average American team and they're barely winning, whereas right now they're winning by 20 to 30, then let's reassess. And the situation would be a lot easier for them.
Yeah, I agree, Joby. They had that test at SMU over the weekend and they went on the road and beat them by 12 without Mills. So
very good.
Shows they're still pretty good.
I'll tell you what, Zach. I know you'd rather have Maine in here than anybody else, but who would you? What would be your tie? I'll let you be the tiebreaker here in the Houston-Kansas debate.
It's probably shocking to anyone who's ever listened to Hoops HD or UConn Twitter at all. I actually have Houston. Interesting. If you go by ESPN strength of record metric, Houston's actually 7th and Kansas is 11th, which. I mean, it's a minute difference, but in terms of the fact that, Kansas, yes, their losses are very good teams. Houston's been very, very impressive. The Mills situation, I agree, is worth monitoring. But for right now, I have Houston above them. As strong as those losses on paper are for Kansas, I mean, there's more of them. So
if you look at all the resume metrics, include Joe, your J&G has Houston 4, Kansas 11. It's a clean sweep on the resume-based metrics for
And I will say Houston's getting a little bit of a bump because it only has 1 loss. Thus, it projects as only 1 loss. Mm-hmm. So, when Houston gets a second loss, if it happens, they'll fall.
It may not happen. This is a really good Houston team.
And it's a down year for that league.
The American is down because, Zach, your team walked away. So.
I'm trying to be charitable. I really am trying to do the decent
because we're going to be talking about the team not long from now.
I just want, before we go much further, I just want to just quickly note that we are recording this. We started this a little after around 9:30 or so here on Thursday evening. So games that have going final after our start of our podcast here are not being considered in this. There are some games coming up later on tonight that may factor in later on as we go down the bracket. Just want to throw that quick note out there. So if we don't talk about, BYU's loss to St. Mary's tonight, there's a reason, not because it didn't happen yet. But Zach, let me go to you for the 3 line here. We do have Kansas, Creighton, and Wisconsin were teams that were mentioned as well. But what 4 teams do you want here on the 3 line?
I'm absolutely terrified right now with the reaction I'm making because I actually have Kansas on it. I had them just below it.
Okay.
I had. Wow. I'm probably wrong. I mean, that's usually a good answer, but especially here. I had Clemson, Illinois, Texas Tech, and Missouri, which is a group of teams, I will admit. But I can absolutely be swayed to Kansas.
Let me start with you, Tytel. Let me start with you here and tell Zach how bad he got this right.
Wow. There's one team in particular. The three of them I can sort
David,
of.
I asked Tytel first, then I'll get to you. All right.
I didn't say Maine.
But would have not been that much worse.
I don't know what kind of hot sauce you've been working on there, but yeah, I think these are all 4 seeds that are a little high at 3. I mean, the metrics look fine, especially for Illinois. And Clemson's had a very good season, and Texas Tech is a little recency bias with a huge win on the road. Missouri's solid. I just think that these are closer to 4 seed lines, while the under consideration teams are 3 seed lines. But again, coin flip.
Yeah, I've got to say, David, I mean, I don't understand Texas Tech above Kansas at all.
I don't.
Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made.
Okay, the one team that I am not pull up Illinois. I don't.
Okay.
That's the one that really. I just have you watched Illinois this year?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about or Penn State and Northwestern. While those are decent road wins, they're not anywhere close to the caliber of what a lot of other teams have. And we're talking about losing to Maryland, teams that are sort of way below this sort of level here. I know they beat many.
None of them are Gonzaga, but Baylor.
Yeah. And this actually makes me think of something that Joby mentioned last week that was a great point, as usual, which was that with the lack of non-conference play, it's going to be very hard for teams to fall very far out of their stratifications in terms of the rankings. Illinois is just going to be playing Big Ten teams. It's going to be really hard for their numbers to go down that far. But this is too high. Pretend I said Kansas.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And see, that's a better line already.
So we're going to replace Illinois with Kansas already here. Rocco, how about this Texas Tech and Missouri here, or should teams like Creighton and Wisconsin that have been mentioned maybe be above them?
I agree with Missouri. My next 4 would have been Kansas, Missouri, and then Clemson, and my 4th would have been Creighton, who's over there on the side.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
I like Texas Tech, though.
That's exactly how I would have gone, except maybe Clemson over Missouri, but that's a coin flip.
Let's pump this Texas
similar,
Tech
yeah.
versus Creighton debate here. I think this is the question. And when you look at this, David, yes, they had that great win at Texas. Texas Tech did, and they also won at Oklahoma.
Those are 2 pretty good wins.
Yeah,
and man, I mean,
versus Creighton, won at UConn, won at Providence, beat Xavier, beat Seton Hall. There's a lot more quantity, I think, on that Creighton side.
Right, and but Texas Tech, Southland champion, most likely Abilene Christian, really nice win. Okay, but no, we're talking. Okay, in terms of protected seed, Alabama. Oh, come on! That wasn't that bad. In terms of protected,
Kansas by a point.
Yeah. Yeah, I
mean,
like
the potential, I think, is there for Texas Tech to blossom into a much better resume, but Creighton's just achieved more. And from what I can see, there's 6 pieces of meat on that bone in the top 2 tiers.
Yeah,
I agree. I think we're going to make a second switch here. We're going to put Creighton in, take Texas Tech out there for now. So that kind of gives us a 3 line. And Joby, let me turn to you for a 4 line. We've got
top.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go with Tytel's reference to Wisconsin. I think it's Wisconsin time.
Yeah.
I know that there is lack of games here, but I'm the ACC guy. Carlik Jones and Louisville have looked really good at points. And I've been very impressed with how they are. I do think it's Illinois time.
Okay. How about Texas Tech? No.
Oh no, it's not Illinois time yet.
Yeah, I'm. This is where I knew you were going to ask me. It was just so tough. I am going to go with Texas Tech. The other team that I was seriously considering here was West Virginia, so I might as well go with Texas Tech.
We're reaching the point where it's becoming real tough. Rocco, what do you think? What do you think of these 4 teams?
If someone shoots down, I'm not really just offended because there are other teams. Zach's team starts to get mentioned here, and with UConn.
You did a better job than I did at 4. So I mean,
Virginia Tech starts getting mentioned around here. I mean, because of the win. So.
Yeah, I'm getting a little scared because Joby's a little too close to mine. We're on the exact same lines here. I've got Wisconsin, Louisville, Illinois in that order, but my 16 is actually Virginia Tech. I just think
yes,
and I think that just comes down to what you think of Duke. If you think that's a solid win, we're going to find out in a few weeks. But right now, I'm probably giving that a little more weight than perhaps some of you.
Villanova is arguably maybe a solid win. Could you pull up Illinois?
Clemson's a damn good win. Obviously.
Again, please, Chad.
Clemson's a great win.
Illinois against Vatech or against Texas?
Yes, against either one, but we'll go with Vatech.
I do think Penn State's trash, though. I think they're absolute trash. Yeah,
okay.
41st is
they won by 15 at Duke.
Okay. This is not even close.
By rule.
No, I think we're in alignment on Illinois. It's more Virginia Tech versus Texas.
Minnesota has not won a road game. Purdue is garbage. I mean, I know that those are brand name wins, but keep in mind those have been bad teams on the road. Like those are not hard games to win.
Didn't Purdue beat Indiana on the road tonight?
Illinois.
Okay, let's get a little semblance order here. So I think the debate now is whether it's not even Texas Tech versus Virginia Tech. It's Illinois versus Virginia Tech, with Texas Tech being in on this line. Is that what you're talking about, David?
I don't have Illinois.
Dump Illinois out, put Vatech in instead. Is that what your argument is?
Sure, or a lot of other teams.
Okay, a lot of Title. Does Illinois belong? Or at this point, I mean, they have a great net, but there's an argument here that they're getting wins over high net teams that aren't really that good.
It's a fair argument. I think that their conference helps boost them a little bit. I think that the Hokies are solid, so I don't think I would have a huge problem with them. But I think I'd be leaning towards Illinois myself.
Zach, Illinois or Vatech? You want to make the final call for us?
I mean, it would be inconsistent for me to suddenly say Virginia Tech, so I'm going to say Illinois. But I totally agree.
Oh my god!
And also, it makes him really mad. So.
Oh my god! I mean, it doesn't make me mad that you're wrong. It just perplexes me.
We're going to go ahead and leave that line as is. Even I'll let you take the next 4 teams, though. How about that? That's your consolation prize.
Okay, and you could also label this line 4 teams that are better than Illinois, and that would beat them on a neutral court. Here's one that's kind of out of the blue. It's gonna raise a lot of eyebrows. I have the Pokes, Oklahoma State, pretty high up here. The next 3 are Alabama, UConn, and Ohio State.
Wait, so you don't even have Virginia Tech yet?
I mean, that's
Virginia Tech? Oh, I didn't realize we didn't put them in. Yeah, excuse me. Okay, it's Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Alabama, UConn.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Alabama and UConn.
Yes.
And still no West Virginia.
Okay. Correct. Not quite. They're in this like they're in this orbit, but I don't have them quite as high as these other teams.
Just a quick note on Oklahoma State. Because their appeal is pending, they are technically eligible, and because of rumors we're hearing that their appeal may not be decided before the NCAA selection special, the field has announced we are considering them eligible for the NCAA tournament. With that said, Joby, how is David's 4 teams here?
I do think Oklahoma State and Alabama are a little high, not far off. I mean, I think the 6th line sounds right. I would have West Virginia here in this case. I guess, I mean, it's a tough call. Do we then, given what they did last night, being a really good Washington State team,
No, yeah,
Do we
I mean,
start looking at the Pac-12 and go UCLA, who I think is a really strong team?
yeah, honestly, like my 5 and 6 is I normally, like, whenever anybody disagrees with me, they're just wrong. That's just kind of how it works. But I could see arguments to flip a lot of my 5 and 6s, Joby, and those are my 6s. I like UCLA a lot. I mean, if you read the site, you know that. I don't understand what cloaking device they're using to go so unnoticed for playing so well.
Yeah. And John Zhang proved last night that he is that original 5-star that went to Kentucky.
Yeah. I mean, is it that they're UCLA? They just don't have that much of a basketball history or pedigree.
Oh, geez. Rocco, let's take a. I pulled up Oklahoma State and West Virginia. David saying that Oklahoma State on the left there is better than West Virginia at this point. Do you agree with him? I mean, there is some nice stuff at the top of Oklahoma State's
West
resume.
Virginia did win and still won.
I like the win at Wichita State. Like, this is a Wichita State team that's played well and played well at home. I mean, I don't like it as much as the win against Kansas, but, I like the Pokes. I think they're really good. I'm a little surprised that I guess I just don't know enough about numbers to understand why they're not higher. You weren't asking me a question.
No, I was not. I was asking Rocco a question, actually.
Yeah, no problem. I think, you just eyeball this real quick. I have West Virginia higher. It's close. It's a good argument. And a lot of, what we're talking about comes down to what the committee thinks of road wins this year. Obviously, if it's heavy road wins, that helps Oklahoma State at this point. But I think you just kind of cherry pick these wins. Obviously, Texas Tech and Kansas, big time established wins. Wichita State, Marquette could end up being really good wins. But you look at West Virginia, like, I'm pretty convinced on them winning at Oklahoma State in their building. That's obviously helpful in the one-on-one comparison. But the way that they won 3 games in 3 days to dominate a tournament, Western Kentucky's a bubble team, Richmond's a potential bubble team. The losses are worse for the Cowboys. All the losses are very understandable for West Virginia. In fact, the Oklahoma loss, their worst loss, was the morning they found out that Sheboy left. So I give them a little asterisk for that one, and all the other 3 are just big time losses. So I'm sticking with the Mountaineers on that comparison.
And I think we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll put West Virginia in, take Oklahoma State out. But Zach, let me ask you about 2 other teams here: Alabama and UCLA.
You cannot mess with my line, Chad.
I already am.
In terms of my board, as I scroll back over, I really like Alabama a lot. But I do agree with David in the sense that one of America's great coaches, Mick Cronin, one of the sexiest men alive. It seems to be just falling into the ether how good they're playing, and I wonder to what degree it is that nobody trusts UCLA kind of as a program, and plus the way that the Cronin style isn't exactly pleasing on the eye. I'll say, Alabama, the win at Tennessee is so impressive. That to me is way more impressive than beating. I think it's a good Colorado team, but it's not nearly as good as winning at Tennessee. They're not even in the same stratosphere. I know, Alabama they do have the loss at to Western Kentucky, but I am more valuing the fact that they just went and won on the road handily at Tennessee. So I would go with Alabama.
Titel, you want to be a final decider here? Alabama, UCLA? Somebody else?
That beats Arizona's got to make it, right? Let's go with the Bruins. In Tucson.
Oh my God.
So we'll have UCLA will come in here. Alabama and Oklahoma State under consideration. And Titel, let me stick with you. Let me get the next 4 teams from you.
I'll keep the Pac-12 bias going. I think the Ducks need to get in here at some point. I know they have not a lot of top stuff on their resume, but when your only losses are by single digits to Missouri neutral site and at Colorado, where you never, ever, ever, literally never win, I think you can explain it away. And the strength schedule is average, but all the other metrics are solid. Oklahoma State is good enough to make it on the 6th, so feel free to put them in, but I'm just hesitant because of the uncertainty, but I think you explained it very well. Alabama's metrics are fantastic, so I have no problem putting them here either. And as far as a 4th, sorry Rutgers, sorry Virginia. I think you're in the mix, but I think I would flip a coin between like Ohio State and Colorado, and I think the Pac-12 bias is getting a bit much, so I think I'll go Buckeyes for this one.
Finished off with Ohio State. Joby, what do you think of those 4 teams?
I would pick, if you gave me 5 teams to pick, all 4 of them would be listed. I have a wild card team for the last spot here. Mm-hmm. I think they will follow in the footsteps of Buffalo and run the table. They have looked awesome. Drake. I am not kidding when I say that. Great.
I think it's too early for them, but I love the fact that they're on our board now at this point.
I do have Drake in the 7-10 game. Just not.
I love them being on our board. I don't really think that they belong at this point.
It's how they're undefeated. They are just curb stomping people. I mean, they really are. And good teams like Loyola Chicago will get consideration, or at least should be getting consideration at the end of this talk. I mean, I think really this is a Wofford Buffalo-ish sort of team.
All right. Does anybody want to defend Joby that a team with no tier 1 or tier 2 wins, despite being undefeated, belongs in over, let's say, Ohio State, the last game we put in?
Yeah, I would like to defend Joby on the grounds that I'm a much bigger Drake fan.
Okay. I think we're going to stick with that line as is, actually. And let's go ahead and try to keep things moving here. And Rocco, I got you up next. Why don't you give us the 7 line?
Ooh, okay.
If
no
you
going
can.
back and fixing 5 or 6. Okay, gotcha.
You want to go back? You let's have a big comment on 5 or 6. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, because I cut you off. No,
yeah.
Go ahead. I want to. That's the whole point of this.
So I had Ohio State as well and Oklahoma State, so I think I'm good on those 2. But I also would have had Rutgers and St. Louis in the 6 on the 6th line.
Rutgers.
You
my
watch
team.
Rutgers this month? Come on, man.
It's about the body of
Wait.
The body of work.
Yeah.
Rutgers has been a lot better this month than Villanova has. They've won more games and
Rutgers is playing.
I'm not so sure that's accurate.
barely. They won 1 more, I think.
And I really do think, unfortunately, where Rutgers is playing,
We
the
can
Metro
go on the 7 line. I'm okay with that.
Where they are. I hate to sound that way, but I really do. I don't think they're a 7.
Oh wait.
I'll tell you what, Rocco. Let's start with Rutgers and St. Louis on the 7. Why don't you give me 2 more to go with them?
Okay, and we got Oregon, so let's go to Colorado, and we will go to USC.
USC, who barely got by Riverside. Zach, does USC belong in here wearing white, as one of the top 8 seeds?
Yeah, I think so. I had them a little higher than this.
Okay.
They did win the game, and I know that's like basic, but in this year of all years, I'm going to give teams a pass for looking like crap in wins. The Mobley brothers are incredible. I mean, this is a USC team that's got the win against BYU. A mauling of what I think is a very good BYU team. If BYU somehow, we've seen it before. If they can pick off Gonzaga, that becomes immediately a much, much better win. I like USC here. I'm a fan of St. Louis because they're like Drake, but if they've actually done something impressive yet.
Yeah. St. Louis has a nice win over LSU.
Yep. And North Carolina State.
And I don't know how good that NC State game is going to be at the end of the season.
They never play. So yeah.
There is a team that I want to at least look at for this line. It's a team you have to kind of stay up late for, but San Diego State.
Again,
down
we are recording this before their game that they're playing right now is gone final. They are down 13 at the half to Utah State as we record this. Just throwing that out there.
And I'd rather have Boise State than San Diego State. Not that I'd be putting Boise State in, but I would rather have Boise.
Yeah, I don't know if you look at St. Louis versus San Diego State. David, you brought this up. Do you want to start by making that argument that San Diego State belongs on this?
I
don't see it, but you want to make the argument.
I guess I'm just not that enthralled with NC State. The win over LSU is really good, but I just think it's like when you add all like UCLA, Colorado State, at St. Mary's, and at Arizona State, those all strike me as decent. And when you add all of that together, I think it's pretty good.
Titel, you want to chime in on this here? Did Rocco have the right 4 teams, or does David San Diego State or somebody else belong in here?
As a Pac-12 guy, I'm okay with it. I think we should start throwing Minnesota under consideration. I know they've lost 4 games, including back-to-back double-digit losses, but their schedule is just ridiculous. They've played 8 straight games against top 50 teams, and then they host Michigan on Saturday. Like, all they do is play tournament teams, and while they lose a lot of them, they win half of them. Like, I think the road, it's hard to explain away the road thing. I get it. And if you want to penalize them for that, feel free. But they've beaten great teams, and many of them.
Yeah, if you look, there's that Minnesota with those wins. I mean, I think that Minnesota absolutely has to be on the 8 line if they haven't been on the 7.
They are going to be able to correct their road win in less than a week.
I'll tell you what, Zach.
If they lose to Nebraska, then we've got a real road problem. I mean,
Zach, let me throw you the 8 line here. And we do have San Diego State, Minnesota, and Drake all under consideration.
I would go with San Diego State, Minnesota. I would go with Drake.
You would?
And yeah, I would. Let me see who you've got for the rest of the. I'm starting to wonder about this. What do people think about Arkansas? I'm nervous. You can tell because you're all much better at this than me. Are there Arkansas thoughts here?
That's not a team I really thought was going
to made some bad stumbles recently. They're not.
They're Minnesota light. You know, they can't win on the road, and they didn't really get a big home win.
Yeah, they were a fraud preseason a little bit.
So. Yeah, I'm pulling up Arkansas Pine Bluffs. Let me try that again.
They have a better chance than Arkansas in a month. I know the way that Arkansas schedule lays.
All you've done is win at Auburn, and Auburn's not a tournament team.
They're going to get the opportunity to prove themselves.
But they're not there yet. That's my
right. I would
Justin
agree
Spitz hurt too. So
other teams I'd run. I mean, Oklahoma. I mean that.
I think you were in the right conference, but I think you had the wrong team. I think you're missing LSU here.
Oh, LSU. Sorry. Yeah, obviously, LSU would definitely be blind. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I helped him out there with LSU, but
you did. Thank you.
Titel, what do you think? Did I get it right there by adding LSU in with this group, and did he get it wrong with some of these other picks?
It looks solid. I want Joby's opinion on Drake versus Virginia.
Drake deserves it over Virginia right now.
Really?
Yeah. Virginia lost to San Francisco. Drake did not lose to a equivalent. Now, I think Virginia, if they played Virginia, you guys haven't been paying attention to Virginia because they played literally the bottom 4 teams in the ACC. Notre Dame twice being part of that 4. But Virginia against those teams is starting to. This was needed. They're getting their preseason, and all of a sudden, Rutrow, the defense is starting to look like it's actually performing better. And the offense is better than it was last year. I'm not saying this is a super team like the preseason number 4, but now all of a sudden I've gone from, boy, I don't know, Virginia, if they fart around there, they could miss the tournament to, okay, let's see if we can climb up to a protected seat. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a climb up, but the team's playing better. Clark's not turning the ball over. Virginia, but it's very eye-testy. Because when you pull up Virginia's resume, you're not going to go, wow. I mean, it's so I get Drake's resume because of the undefeated, the big 0 is better, in my opinion, than Virginia at the present time.
Well, if we're going to leave Drake in,
Virginia beats Clemson, that changes quick.
Right. If we're going to leave Drake in this line, Rock, I want to go back to the San Diego State pick.
I thought I had Drake high on the 10 line. Wow, you all like them even more than I do, and I thought I liked them.
But
wow,
Rocco, are we missing out on Boise State here as well? But especially by putting San Diego State in before them.
I mean, I like Boise a lot. The problem with Boise is, the big win. They had a big chance at Houston. They fell 10 points short. The biggest win is at BYU, and BYU is not a team we've talked about yet. So it's not like, to me, the way I look at it until we have an established resume is to jump up to a new tier, you got to beat somebody in a tier above you, and that just Boise's on the back burner, but they're coming up soon. I just don't have them quite up to this level yet. On the flip side of that, I think Virginia, they've fallen because they haven't beaten anybody, but they started so high at the start of the year. This is an okay place, I think, to put Virginia. Same with San Diego State. And then I'm okay with Minnesota. I would actually add Xavier into this mix as my fourth.
Would you think that? Do you think that I was wrong about LSU being up here?
I think LSU's right in the next group of teams. So I can't call you wrong, but I think I just would have Xavier a little higher.
And of course, we're debating 8 versus 9 seed. It's a very, very minuscule debate. They play each other in the first round.
Well, it is a big deal because one team gets to wear white.
I'll tell you what. There's LSU and Xavier up there on the screen, and I think Joby, I'm actually up to you. Why don't you give me 4? Let's stick with these 4, and why don't you give me give me 4 more here? We have Arkansas, Virginia, Boise, and Xavier all under consideration.
I will put my who's in right here, but maybe this is when we start going all over the place, and
well, I think we already did.
I think
I've been doing that.
This is where I want to throw. Let's go Xavier. Let's go Xavier. But I don't like Arkansas.
I don't either.
I'm sorry. I mean, Arkansas is probably going to get in our field tonight, and I'm fine.
They're not in mine.
Not now, at this point in time. But I'm going to throw a team that I actually it's very eye testy because they haven't played enough. But I think that they could win the ACC regular season. Virginia, ironically, is the team I think that stands in their way. And that's Florida State.
Yes, I like that team better than Arkansas. And Joby, I like Xavier better than Arkansas, and I like Virginia better than Arkansas.
Nobody's put Arkansas in this field yet. Calm down.
Boise is the other team, by the way.
Yeah. And I like Boise better than Arkansas.
Okay, David, I know you like everybody better than Arkansas. Titel, do you like these 4 teams, number 1 better than Arkansas, and number 2 better than anybody else out there as well?
I can live with it, and nobody who's not there jumps out to me. I think we might want to throw Florida under consideration. I was wondering if one of you can explain to the public viewers what does it mean that Florida's losses are with Keontae Johnson out of the game?
I think that
he's not coming back, right?
Yeah. With him not coming back, I think that the committee would view them as they are now. If he was scheduled to come back, I think it would be a lot different the way the committee would view them. Mm-hmm. With him not scheduled to come back,
it is unfortunate that you point out that the Florida State's best win might be that game, the game, but it was a win, and it was in Gainesville. I know there's so many things running through so many people's heads in that game, and
that one was in Tallahassee actually.
But it wasn't Tallahassee.
Yeah, and Florida looked
last year. They won in sorry.
Yeah, Florida looked great until that happened, obviously, and it was early. But
and you see there's Florida on the left. They did beat LSU without him, so that says something. They beat a quality Ole Miss team, and they lost to a very bad Kentucky team. So
Ole Miss really isn't that quality, but
it's
middle of State be deserving. I guess I'll change my tune. That was a nice one by Wichita State. So.
Let me just ask. Let's see. This is Joby. This was your lineup. Rocco, any other thoughts on this 9 line?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with Virginia, Xavier. I think we covered them. My next 2 after that would be, and I'm good with Boise at this point. I would put in, and again, some of this is weighted from the preseason, but I would put in Sparty here above Florida State just barely. And I know it's like a grinder because we've seen them choke a couple times. But I think overall, it's tough. It's like you got to put them somewhere. And if you're in the Big Ten and you don't take too many losses, you're probably not going to get seeded 10th or worse. So I try to get all my Big Ten teams in the first 9 lines if I can. Yeah,
David, you want to argue why Michigan State? I mean, it's still 8-4 overall, which is solid. They've got 2 tier 2 wins. One of them is on the road. Florida State does not have a tier 2, does not have a single road win. This is your argument, David.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but the more I look at them, the more that I think is there than what it appears. I didn't have Michigan State really in at all. Honestly, I kind of quit going down the net when I got into the 80s, which is where they are as I was doing this.
86 net, yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But there is like the win against Rutgers. They looked really good. They beat a team that's in our field by a lot. They did go to Duke and win, and while Duke assuredly won't make the field, that's still a pretty good road win. I can live with Sparty, but there is a team that I really like that I'm a little surprised has not come out yet, and that's Seton Hall.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and put Michigan State in instead of Florida State.
I like Florida State a lot too, but
but I think Florida State's probably going to come right in here on the 10 line. I'll tell you what, David. Let me let you take the 10 line. How about we do that? You want to go Florida State and go ahead and put them in right now?
Yeah. Florida State. I got Seton Hall, Oklahoma, and the Cougs. BYU.
Scared me.
Oh, not Wazoo, not Wazoo.
And Washington. Oh, no, BYU. Zach, what do you think of David's line?
I'm okay with these teams. Another team I was considering, actually, even at the 9 line, was another ACC team, Virginia Tech. Now, look.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech is in.
Yes, I know.
They're on the 5 line.
Excellent point. That's an excellent point. I'm going to shut up now. I like these teams. The Florida evaluation, it's very difficult for the reasons we've discussed.
Yeah.
I do like the 4 that we have there more than Florida. And if I try and defend Arkansas, Dave is going to reach through the screen.
Yes.
So I won't.
Yeah.
Joby, do you think David? I think actually David did a pretty good job here. I hate to say
it.
I do.
I did an excellent job.
Florida, BYU, and we already have Florida under the consideration. You know what? Let's stick with BYU. Let's see what they can do against the Zags in the next round.
Right, one more person here. Rocco, let me ask you, any other thoughts on those?
I do have, especially after tonight's win, and I know they have, I think, 5 losses, but I just think with what Purdue's done. Oh, wow, you already knew who it was. That was awesome.
The only team that won tonight of any consequence.
I would put Purdue above Seton Hall. I'm good with Oklahoma and BYU.
Let's just take a quick look at that Purdue Seton Hall. Titel, let me ask you about these 2 teams here. Do you agree with Rocco that Purdue is above Seton Hall? I would note that's not going to show up on the screen, I don't think, because it went final afterwards, but you can add in another tier 1 win there at Indiana.
It's Seton Hall.
All road wins, yeah.
A big coin flip for those.
I'm just going to say it. Hey.
I think this is a big coin flip for those of you who focus on non-conference strength of schedule. Seton Hall definitely gets the edge. The other thing is Seton Hall's schedule is ridiculous. Their next 5 games, they have Creighton once, Xavier once, and Villanova twice, COVID permitting. So they're gonna either play their way in or play their way out.
Well, I can tell you the Xavier game is not happening. They just announced about an hour ago. So
thanks a lot, Chad. Or Zach, I mean.
I think the Big East could actually have off the schedule up.
I would note that, again, we're talking about a tier 1 Penn State win, which is I don't think is going to stay there. So, but
right.
We'll go ahead and leave it as is. And let me turn to who's up next? Titel, how about let me turn to you for the 11 line.
You're starting to hold our noses, as our good friend John Felica would say, but I don't know that I think definitely Purdue, especially after the road win tonight. I think Florida, even though it has an excusable absence in Keontae Johnson, I hear your point, and if they keep going down, I agree they're going to play their way out. Let's do Arkansas just because they've been sitting there, and I feel bad.
They could sit there all the way off the board. You don't have to put them in.
Yeah, no obligation.
As far as another one, I think Indiana's starting to play their way out of the tournament, unfortunately.
Okay.
And I think even with Pac-12 bias, Stanford is pushing it. We already have Boise. We already have BYU. Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to run out of teams. If you want to do Duke or North Carolina, just because I think we have to have one of them in the NCAA tournament, although I know you have many arguments against it.
I'd rather go North Carolina if you tell me I have to put them up there.
No, the rule is you have to play a round of 64 and 32 game in North Carolina. You don't actually have to take one of those teams.
Can you play a round of a play-in game between the 2 of them?
I'll tell you what, I think they've got a lot to pick apart. I really like the Purdue, Florida. I don't know that I like the Arkansas, Carolina, but let's go through a couple people here. Rocco, what do you think of the bottom of the 11 line here? Maybe the entire 11 line.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close.
Okay.
My only reason I have Duke in this area is based on preseason weight. So all the arguments against Duke, I completely back you guys up. But I think you got to at least throw them on the board, depending on however you feel about them. And I think just to get another team on the board, I actually have two more teams above Arkansas.
Okay, go ahead.
Which would be Wichita State.
Yes.
And it would also be Western Kentucky.
Western
Okay.
Kentucky.
The Western
Wow.
Kentucky argument you have to sell me on after they lost the game to a Charlotte team that turned around and lost to non-D1 Belmont Abbey, and then followed it up with a bad game against Louisiana Tech that they won and a bad game against Louisiana Tech that they lost.
Well, Conference USA play, you throw those records out the window, Chad. And,
Okay.
and you buckle up for 40 minutes of basketball. And and Western Kentucky also beat both those teams in the other games.
I'm sold.
So you look at the skyrocketing ship, which is the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you looked at the fact that WKU is the only team to win in Tuscaloosa. I think that's worthy of throwing them in as the last team.
I'll tell you what, I love them better than Duke, but that doesn't say much.
Yeah. Can we look at another team,
Okay, yeah.
Chad? And this is a really schizophrenic team, but the top of their profile is better than some protected seeds. Do I have to name the team?
Go ahead, name it.
Marquette.
They have one. They're men without hats. They have one win.
Two.
There is no team in America whose fan base hates its team more that's good than the Marquette. They are.
No, it is schizophrenic. I mean, they're all over the place. But like when you look at their losses, it's there's too many of them, but they're all the teams in the field. And when you look at the top of the profile, like at Creighton and Whiskey, I just can't ignore that. I don't know, like, but again, it can be done. They're all over the
place. It's like the Titanic, Mr. Griggs, because if you have that really heavy front of the boat with those two wins, but you have these really ugly pile of losses on the other one, it's still gonna sink.
Fair enough.
Let me assure you, what those losses lack in bad resume due to their metrics, they more than made up for in the manner in which they happened.
So, Zach,
they are not an team. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, Zach, I want to go back to the real debate here, which was this Arkansas, North Carolina. I mean, I think there's a strong argument that North Carolina belongs here. If you look at that resume, it's not awful, but are you holding out that Arkansas is here also?
No, I'm not. I'm absolutely. I mean, look, North Carolina lost one of the teams in the ACC that is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. So I'm not going to sit here and act like that's a bad loss, because it's not. No, North Carolina, I think, has a much stronger profile. I had one other team I was going to throw in, but I'll wait because we've got enough, and none of you will like them as much.
I'll tell you what.
I like them. I like them.
I have one that I definitely.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do here. There's only 4 at-large spots left. I mean, you could throw in a team that may not take one away if somebody wants to throw Winthrop or Toledo in here at some point.
What I was going to say.
But I want to run through one team at a time here. Zach, let me start with you. Give me just one team here to start off the 12 line.
To start the 12 line, so
could be one of these 6 we have here. Could be somebody else.
Oh God, what a grouping of humans this is. I'm going to take Stanford of that group. And the other team, if you want to move them into under consideration, was Colorado State. I don't think it's as good.
I told you I would like them. I knew who you were going to say.
Look, the good news is they play their next 6 games on the road, so they probably won't be here for long. Although only 2 of them are against San Jose State in a rec center. So we'll see.
Let's get this 12 line finished, and then we'll debate who goes in here. Joby, give me a team.
Anybody but Arkansas? Why are they sitting there? Of the teams we have, I did say Winthrop, but on a
you can say Winthrop if you want.
Wichita State.
Wichita State.
Yeah.
All right. Rocco, you want to give me a team here?
Well, this sucks because
you can give me Western Kentucky again.
Well, I have Duke. Duke's the highest one I have. But I hate being the guy to put them in.
And David, you want to give me the final team here, unless you want to give me Winthrop or Western Kentucky, in which case we'll take one more from Titel. But
yeah, absolutely, we'll do that.
Out of those 4, I like Marquette the most. I actually like Colorado State better than everybody else there too. But and I also like them more than Duke.
So you're putting Marquette in though.
Yeah, but I mean, if Duke is in, then Marquette would be my team, which
Um,
sets up a Wojo Coach K first 4 game.
For what it's worth, I had Duke as my last at-large in, mostly because it was funny. I also consider doing a Michigan State or a North Carolina Duke first 4 matchup.
I actually would love to see the Bonnies have more than 6 games under there.
Yeah.
I really like St. Bonaventure too.
I'm not saying remove and go. I just wish they had more games because I think they have something. The Richmond win's nice. The Akron and Hofstra wins are nice, but they got to do more than just be 5-1. If you don't have the elite one.
I'll fill up the 12 line there with a couple auto bits from Winthrop and Toledo, but let's have a little bit more discussion here. Titel, what do you think of this Stanford, Wichita State, Duke, Marquette being our first 4 with teams like Indiana, Colorado State, and the Bonnies not in the field, and anybody else we didn't mention tonight?
As we've said it for the last 10 seed lines, I think coin flip and could easily take all 4 of them out. Could easily leave all 4 in. I just want to hear Joby's rationalization for the J&G of Winthrop at 15 and Wisconsin at 16.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, it's the anomaly of the undefeated season plus some road wins, a lot of road wins and away from home. And a lot of their wins are in that. Pull up Winthrop's resume. That's the best way to do it. And you'll see that they don't have they have a few non-D1 as I remember, but they have a number of like tier 2 and 3 as I remember. Yeah.
Actually don't have a non-D1 game.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, and that might be helpful.
Well, I think Upstate and Charleston Southern
are essentially
neutral wins. Yeah, there's when you're undefeated, it gives the computer goes a little fakakta.
Well, can I throw another team out here that's not even on the board here that nobody's mentioned? And I think
Please.
you've got to throw Marquette in there for the same reason. David, shouldn't we be discussing Maryland for the exact same reason?
Yeah, I like Maryland too. I'm glad you mentioned them. I have a team I'd like to add as well, but I will wait until after we discuss Maryland.
Okay. Well, Rocco, I mean, were we wrong to leave Maryland out, especially for putting Marquette in?
I mean, I've got Maryland in my last 4. I think they have a little bit more clout than Marquette, in my opinion.
You know what? I'm not in character tonight. I would, if somebody wants to motion a Maryland Marquette swap, I would absolutely second it.
Joby, what do you think?
I mean, I still like Western Kentucky better. But
Arkansas. Man.
Well, I'll tell you what. How about a Maryland Arkansas swap?
Yeah.
I mean, Arkansas is a fraud. I mean, who really? I mean, Titel said, well, they've been there a long time on our board. Well, why? Who cares?
That was my fault.
Because of Zach, he ruined everything.
Yeah.
I mean, SMU is better than most of those teams too.
Yeah, but anyway,
we even talked about SMU.
Even Pitt has done some stuff.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm going to name my team now.
Okay. First of all, I made a few motions here. Based on that, I've been convinced that we made a huge mistake at Arkansas. They're out of the field. Maryland and Marquette are both, and let them play each other. So that'll resolve it.
Okay, the other team, when you look at this is like an 11-seedish team, I think, that we haven't really talked about. Gonzaga's bench. I think you got to put them in
protected seat.
I think
Gonzaga's bench. Titel, I mean, how about as it looks now? Is there? And we did not put Indiana in. We did not put Pitt in.
I think it looks fine. I mean, it's very early in terms of like the St. Bonaventure effect. Like they might be one of the best 25 teams in America. Maybe, I don't know, because they haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
And the undefeated teams are great, but it's early. And if you're beating up bad teams, I don't know how impressive it is. I think it's fine.
All right, Zach, any thoughts? Any other thoughts from you on it? Do you think we got it now, or?
I think we nailed it. I mean, I can't imagine who the idiot was that was advocating for Arkansas earlier. They must be. No, I like all these teams. I agree with everything you said in terms of the St. Bonaventure thing, and the good news for St. Bonaventure is, God willing, it will shake itself out and they'll get to play.
Exactly. That's if they wind up and they against a series of VCU and Richmond and St. Louis wind up with only 3 losses in the season, then I don't think there's going to be a lot of argument that they don't just even belong, but are going to be pretty solidly in the field. Yeah, but they got to do it.
I went ahead and added in, as you can see there, the 13 through 16 lines from Georgia State all the way down to Prairie View, way down the bottom there. And so we have a field now.
Yep.
On that note, though, I want to do is let's leave this up here as we run through our final thoughts. And I want to give each of you a chance to any final thoughts about what we did or about any other subject you want to bring up. Want to talk about Zach's suggestion of hot sauce. That's fine as well.
I don't want that anymore.
Joby, let me start with you tonight.
I will say, and the quality of what was pointed out with Marquette and Maryland, the strength of the Big Ten, et cetera. But at the end of the day, they're both 7-6. If they want, let's say they double that and they wind up 14-12, I think they're both very, very nervous and probably out, because other teams will move up that we aren't talking about yet. If Colorado State continues to win, they have the nice San Diego State win, then all of a sudden they bump. If Arkansas, after we have abused them for the last, 20 minutes, if Arkansas goes out and they actually do something, then they actually have a record that won't fall back. So be very wary of this. Is when, whether it's the weekly hoops update on Monday, I'm banging the drum. Bad overall records. Don't think just because Georgia got in at 16-14 20 years ago that you're going to get in. There are going to be teams that move up and rise up that will take your spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rocco.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Joby. I echo that entirely. I think as far as the exercise David Griggs, I thought it was a great question you had before we started recording tonight in regards to what was the process like, how hard was it to build a seed list, how hard was it to build a bracket. I actually kind of thought it was easier than it will be later, because even though we have varying amounts of games played, like the St. Bonaventure example, the Virginia and Duke examples, versus like a Drake with 13 games, all blowouts against bad teams, you can start to compare different things that you like about the profile or try to balance it the best you can. And, once you get into a little flow with that, I thought it was pretty easy to get through the board versus what it's like, when we get into March and you're looking at all the different factors, strength of record, et cetera. So it only gets more complex from here. But yeah, like what Joby said, I think there is going to be room here for a couple of non-Power 6 conference teams, perhaps like out of the A10. Like I think there's 7 or 8 really solid A10 teams, but outside of St. Louis so far, nobody's really emerged as a at-large. But there's going to be those opportunities to build those top 75, top 80 wins in the A10. As an example, you've got 4 or 5 strong Mountain West teams. We don't know who's going to rise out of that. Maybe we'll get 2 at the end. So that's going to cost a couple of, like the 9th place Big Ten team, perhaps, or the 6th or 7th best Big East. And so that's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out and who those teams will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that as well. Titel.
So my bracket-related final thought is that if I were a 5 or 6 seed, I would love to play North Carolina or Duke in January. I would not want to, I don't think, play them in mid-March, because I think that they're very young teams. They're going to get very better with Hall of Fame coaches. So I think that will be fascinating if it holds. My non-bracket related thing is I was reading Ken Pond today. He finally got a blog post for January. And usually I only care about his analytic stuff because it's helped my job and my hobby and my passion tremendously. He had a footnote here where he said, I'm going to read it because it blew my mind, and it's just one sentence, quote, "It seems pretty unlikely to me that any conference tournaments will be played, but we'll see," unquote. I don't know if it's a throwaway line because it's a footnote. I don't know if he has any inside information. I don't know if he's just projecting with COVID or something, but I assumed that most, and still do, that most conference tournaments will be played. If it doesn't play, this whole exercise gets turned upside down, because all the teams who've earned their spot in the regular season are going to stay there, because teams are not going to, there's no bid stealers, right?
Exactly. No conference tournaments, no bid stealers. I know conferences are still announcing. We had a couple announcements today about locations of conference tournaments. There's some movement in them, but nobody has canceled this size change of bigger fields. Some conferences are going with bigger fields because of COVID. Some conferences like the Northeast are going with a smaller field because of COVID. So I don't think that anybody really knows what they're doing in terms of conference tournaments at this point. And
right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but
I can say that the desire, at least for under the radar conferences, is to play them.
Yeah. But Zach, let me go to you for a final thought.
Yeah. First of all, I want to echo what Joby said. Joby may as well have just had a bright flashing sign that said Kentucky over his head as he was doing the entire talk there, because as impressive as they have looked in the last week, I need everybody, not on this, in general, to just calm down with Kentucky, and they will get better, but they have got a long way to go before they are near this field. In terms of the teams we filled in at the end, I want to give some love to Marshall, a team that's done their most impressive work on the road, wins at Wright State, at Louisiana Tech. I mean, they lost at Louisiana Tech also, but I mean, they had to play they played them on the road in back-to-back days. Getting one of those two, I value as much as I look at going 1-1 as going 1-0 in the way Conference USA is structured. And it's a Marshall team who's got a huge test coming up this weekend with Western Kentucky home and home. So that's a team to keep an eye on, because those would be their two best wins of the year, either of them, or hopefully for them both. And they close the season with North Texas. So that's a team that can really maybe put the hammer down in Conference USA, along with UAB is another team I'm looking at. Those two teams, if you want to talk about, we mentioned Mountain West and A10. There's a possibility a Conference USA team could climb up as well.
David.
Just real quick, just as a reminder, I know that we didn't cover seeds 13 through 16 on this podcast, but if you want, if you're a fan of those conferences, be sure and check out Under the Radar, although you might want to skip yesterday's show.
It was a great show. Come on.
Yeah, it was a great show. It was a comedy of errors, lots and lots of errors. But other than that, this was just
because we thought Mike Krzyzewski coached at Youngstown State. Come on.
Yeah, there were a few errors. Yeah, it does feel different. I think one of the things that I've learned is how much I've always valued out of conference games or crossover games. I think especially if you're a fan of the under the radar teams, that really is how conferences and teams are able to establish themselves. It isn't just conference play, and the lack of that this year, I think, has affected how we're able to evaluate teams like a Winthrop, like a Drake, teams that would have been playing bye games, and had they been able to pull off a win or two, then suddenly it isn't as questionable. So I kind of miss having that. But other than that, it felt good to be doing this again. We hadn't done one since before the pandemic, and it was fun doing this tonight. We're going to be doing them once a week the rest of the way. So, wow.
Yeah, we'll be switching up the format a few times here as we go on, although I think we'll stick with this format for a couple of weeks at least. But
yeah.
On that note, if you want to check out the completed bracket with the actual matchups, just look down below now. You can look. If you looked earlier, then you just totally wasted your last hour of your life.
Yeah.
But on behalf of Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, Joby Fortson, John Titel below me, we got Zach, we got David Griggs. I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you again. We'll be back next week with more of the same. Have a great night, everybody.